All right, what is going on? We are back with a podcast, and I am super honored to have this guy on. He's been someone I've been following for a little bit. You might know him as a Super Bowl champion, but if you're a door to door nerd like a lot of us listen to the podcast, then I know him as someone that's sold, that not only was in Super Bowl, but went and knocked doors after. So I'm super honored, super excited to have on the one, the only Setema Gali. Thanks for coming on the show with us, Setema.
Taylor, it is an honor. I am so excited to be here with you because anytime we talk about door to door, man, my heart swells with gratitude and joy. And I'm excited to share some nuggets today. And if there's something that can help the guys out there, the guys and the gals, man, what a blessing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being willing to come on. I know you're a busy guy. You run your own events, your own coaching programs, and so yeah, we're just excited to have you on and jam for a little bit. So yeah, I think a lot of our community, September, we sell solar panels. I knew you were doing alarms back in the day, but not everyone knows your story that you went from being Super Bowl champ to selling doors. So those that maybe haven't heard your story as much, they're probably thinking, "What's a Super Bowl champ doing, knocking on doors after he's playing in the NFL?" So, do you want to just give us, part of your story and tell our listeners how you got into the door-to-door space and where you're at now, how that all went down?
You got it. So 20 years ago, I was in the mortgage industry. I'd come home from New England, spent a couple years up there, and my buddy was doing mortgages. So back then, man, you could make like a killing. So I'm doing mortgages in the end of '03, 2004, 2005, 2006. 4-year run, make awesome, life-changing money. I'm sitting down in Provo, Utah with my oldest at the time, who was a baby. He's on my chest. I'm in a 6,000 square foot home. I got about $500,000 worth of vehicles in my garage. And I'm like, this ain't it. Like, it was like, my soul was empty. Like, I felt like I was called to do more. What I felt called to do was go coach and speak and train and mentor, which is what I do today. I obviously wasn't ready back then. So I start to move that way. But the 2007, 2008, right, there was a huge recession, a huge crash. A lot of people in the mortgage industry and real estate we lost everything. And I lost everything. When I say everything, my homes, I had a lot of real estate around the country. I had real estate, I had my cars, I had my offices, I had my employees, I had everything. And millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars gone. By 2009, we are living in a 900 square foot townhome. I've got two kids at the time, like little babies, and we're miserable. And I am miserable. I think my wife was good, but I'm so miserable. I'm like, this is not it. I'm supposed to be successful and making a difference. Right, had made multiple seven figures. I had a Super Bowl ring, had a college degree, was all captain, all conference at BYU. And now I'm losing. And so we can't even put food on the table, can't even pay our bills because like nothing's working. So I take my Super Bowl ring, the one I won with the Patriots. I find someone who will buy it from me. I fly to New York City. I sell him the ring. I'm sobbing like a baby, man. I'm like, dude, how did I get here? Oh my gosh, I'm just so embarrassed. I'm humiliated. I'm in my early 30s and sell him the ring. I come home with cash and I'm still trying to work on business. Nothing's working. By 2010, like we are so underneath, like nothing's working. I file a bankruptcy. I was like, I'm going to pay all these creditors back. Man, I wasn't paying back 10 plus million dollars. So I file a bankruptcy. And by 2011, I'm like 35 years old. I've got two kids and I am miserable. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm barely making it. And I get recruited by a younger guy than me to go knock doors. And he had recruited me 3 years in a row. This is the third year. Takes me to Happy Sumo, takes me to dinner. I go to his house. And this one, he asked me the question. He said, "What do you have to make in one summer for this to be worth it? Like, how do I get you to come out?" Because I was just kind of like, man, I'm too old for this, man. I'm beyond that. I was too prideful. I was arrogant, prideful.
Yeah.
And I said, man, if I could make, he's like 18 to 20 weeks. I'm like, If I could make 100 grand, like take home 100 grand in 18 weeks, I would do it. And he's like, done. I'm like, what? He's like, you can make that. You could probably make 5 times that in, a few years down the road. So I decided to go do this. And I'm scared, but brother, I had no money. My confidence was at an all time low. We were struggling as a family, just like nothing's working. And he looked at me and he was like, if you follow the system, if you put in the work like you did football, if you go compete, you can make as much money as you want to make. But this will be the hardest thing you ever do, and it'll be one of the greatest things you ever do. I never forgot that. So Ted, I jump on a plane, have no money, fly to South Carolina, and the rest is history, man. I mean, I worked like a dog. I drank Red Bulls, Monsters every day. I worked. I woke up early and studied. I went to bed studying, role playing. I didn't do Sundays. I'd go to church and study. I'd wake up every day and study and practice and rehearse. And it was one of the greatest summers of my life.
That's awesome. That's cool. Well, yeah, now you're speaking our language, but I gotta ask Setema, this guy, because I'm thinking about the guy who first tried to recruit you. I don't know if you had known him for a while or whatnot, but like for me, I would see Super Bowl champ, uh, successful in the mortgage industry at 35 years old. I would be like, I would think, okay, that's not my guy. He's way too established to come and like knock doors with us. So I gotta ask, was this guy? Had you known him for a little bit? Did he know
I'd
like
known
your
him.
situation or?
I knew him from I knew him for a few years, for like 5 years, and he lost
Okay.
everything too. And the thing is, he said like everyone. He goes, "You're on my hit list." He goes, I had a hit list of 10 guys. I knew if I could get these 10 guys, if I could recruit these 10 dudes, they would dominate. They would kill it. I was on that list. I was at the top of that list, and he recruited me in 2009 and then 2010, and by 2011. I was just ready. I was like 35. I'm established. I'm married with kids. Everyone else was these young. I'd run a multiple 7-figure business. I had the cars. I had the black cars. I'd had everything. And so when he came to recruit me, he was like, and he played it cool. He's like, if I can get you for 1 year, I think I'd get you for 5. He was right. Because once I knocked that first summer, I'm like, me and my wife looked at each other and we said, hey, let's go do 4 more years, 4 more. And let's go get to $1 million take home. Let's build our accounts. Like I had this path to regional manager. I was like, I'm doing 5 years and then I will reset. And I'm telling you, man, like if you're a door-to-door guy, it is one of the greatest. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, Taylor. I loved my time on the doors. It was so freaking hard. It
Yeah.
sharpened me. It like refined me. It forged me. Like, like those old Viking swords where they're in the heat, pounding it in the heat, pounding. I mean, I'm in my mid to late 30s and I'm out working these young dudes. I mean, my car, I was a car driver, obviously second, third year. And it's like 10:30 and they're like, where are you? It's like, fool, I'm knocking. Quit, like, get it right home. I'm gonna go get these last. I would knock doors at 10 o'clock, 10:30. I'd see a home at 11. I'm like, dude, they just got home. Swing shift. Boom, boom, boom. I get in there. That sucker would get installed. I mean, I'm sure they changed it now, but my deals would get installed like finishing at like 3 in the morning. Like I was a dog, man. I wanted it so bad. And you gotta have like these big goals. You gotta have the thing that's like, I will go pay that price. I will go recruit. I will go sell. I will go knock. I will practice. I will cut this learning curve by like 10x. I will cut into it so fast. We were rewarded financially, but we were also rewarded spiritually and emotionally. I loved my time on the door, Sailor. I loved it, man. It changed my life.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. And yeah, so many things in there. Like, I mean, first of all, just the guy who brought you on. I think that's a lesson right there. It's just like so many times I see guys who I think, oh, they wouldn't, they're Super Bowl champ, different industry. They're not going to be a good fit for what we're doing. But in door to door, you just never know. Like we've had people come on in 60, 70 years old. They have had success at this job. And so I think for those listening, you never know who can have success, and you just got to go out or you got to shoot your shot. And yeah, maybe you're not going to recruit guys like Setema. Like he might not be selling solar with us now, but but hey, you got to shoot your shot. You never know what's going to happen. But then number two, just the level of discipline. I don't know how much you know about solar door to door Setema, but it's definitely not quite. You don't see as many guys hustling compared to the alarm days, just because in our industry, guys can go out and knock 2 3 hours, get a book a couple appointments, call up for the day. You know, they can go make 5 6 7 grand off one of these deals and be like good to go for a month. But really, the people who have the greatest success in solar, they take that same mindset, they make it an obsession and go hustle. So for you, like, what would you say? um, because there's sometimes a lot of laziness in this industry now, probably not way more than you would have seen in alarms. But do you think it was just taking that same discipline you had from football, or what would you say to guys who like maybe don't have that same level of drive and they're like, oh, I don't know if I could take it to the level of Setema? Like, how do you get guys to go and have that dog mindset and just get out there and hustle and trying to
Yeah,
work like you were working?
great question. So a couple of things. Number one of my mentors said he was a very wealthy guy. We're talking billionaire, and he says to the guy who recruited me, who then told me, he said, the piper is going to be paid. You can pay him now, you can pay him later. Either way, Piper's going to get paid. Like, there is no avoiding paying the piper, aka paying the price. So to the guys right now who like go get a few deals, make some money, and take their foot off the gas, my thing is like, what the hell are you waiting for? Let's say you're in your 20s. You have this opportunity to just separate from the pack. And in your 20s and even in your 30s, like your trajectory is either like this, flat, or if you're working like a dog, like you're like, dude, could I be lazy? Sure. But being lazy means this trajectory, which eventually goes down. My trajectory's always been like this. I'm like, I have big, hairy, audacious goals. Like, I never wanted to be the average dude. I never wanted to be that, like, second place, third place. So I point my trajectory this way. And you gotta just know, if you don't set big, hairy, audacious goals, then the goals that you set are average and your trajectory always ends like this. And the piper's going to get paid. So you can either pay that price in your 20s and 30s, and I mean work like a dog. And I know there's guys who are like, oh, my wife and my kids, like if you got little kids, like babies, like I did, they all they need is they need you in for like an hour at night. Like you want to be wealthy when like I got a 17-year-old, a 14-year-old, 11-year-old. My boys are teenagers. I spend a lot of time with them because I got the resources. I got a team. I can spend time with my sons. I train them. I work out with them. Like we pray every night. I see them in the morning before they go to school. Like it's so good. But if I don't pay the price early, like if I was knocking solar now, I would tell my guys like, here's how we roll. Okay, we're going to be the best. You want to be average? This ain't the team to be a part of. We're going to be the best, which means we're going to be the sharpest, the hardest working, the most focused, smart working guys because our goals are up there, which means our trajectory has to go like this. And if you don't want to be the best, like go to another team and it's okay. But my guys that I worked with, man, we just work like dogs, man. I'm like, cars, homes, retirement, legacy. And again, guys are younger, so they just all they can see is like, oh, I made 5 to 7. I'm like $7,000. That's nothing. You think $100,000 is a lot of money? That is nothing. And I can say that straight face. Like, if you think, I tell my sons all the time, if you think $100,000 is a lot of money, go get a job. Entrepreneurs who know 100K is nothing. 200K is nothing. Even I tell my boys a million, I mean it's pretty good. It doesn't carry like it used to. So I'm training my sons already. Like, do you got to be so hungry? Like you got to have this Mamba mentality. I love it. We call it the dog mentality. You got to have a dog mentality. Like I want that for my family, for my wife, for my kids, for my parents, for my community, my duty to God. Like there's so many reasons why I would go choose greatness versus just settling for, five or $7,000. Come on, man. And I know some young guys like that's a lot of money. It's not when you have a wife and when you have kids and when you have multiple mortgages and multiple car payments and you get older. Like if you're going, like there's a phrase that's like, make hay while the sun is shining, right? Make the hay. Like that means work your ass off when you got the energy and the skills and momentum.
Yeah. No, I love that. Love that. So true. It reminds me like when I was growing up. I don't know if your parents did this, Setema, but they're like, "Hey,
Did I
Taylor,
lose you?
you can either you can either do your chores now." Just saying before we cut off for a second. It's like the same thing when I was growing up. My parents were like, "Hey, either you get your chores done today, or you wait till tomorrow, but you're not coming out Saturday evening with us. We're going to the movies or whatever, you know." And I think it's the same thing in life. Exactly what you're saying. So many times we're like, "Oh, you know what? We're gonna spend time with the kids," and I like how you put it too. It's like when your kids are young, they only need an hour, and I'm gonna have to play that back for my wife when I get home tonight. Not that we shouldn't spend time with family, but it's like I would much rather have time to do workouts, play sports with kids when they're a little bit older. When they're younger, just go back. I got a 4 year old and a 2 year old, so I'll go hang out with them at nights. But like how much more satisfying is it to have that time to be able to spend with them, do the sports with them, and be involved when they are way busier later in life too. So I love, yeah, I love what you're saying with that. But yeah, and like obviously you've carried the same level of drive, that dog mentality, like you're talking about, into all these other areas. You're running events now. You got your own company. But I gotta ask, when you were going through this bankruptcy, I'm sure you were going through some doubts and like wondering if you could keep providing for your family and all that. So what were your thoughts, feelings when you were going through those hard times? Did you doubt yourself ever? Were you like, man, this dog mentality, it's not paying off anymore. It's not working.
Oh
Or
man.
what were those feelings at that time?
Of course I doubted myself. Of course I had doubt. I was discouraged, depressed, because I went through about 4 years where I was probably making 30 or 40 grand a year, barely that. Like just we were on EBT, which is food stamps, government assistance for a year. Like I went through this phase of like, man,
Yeah,
nothing was working. And you get beat up long enough, like you start to believe, well, I guess that, maybe my best days are behind me. You start to believe maybe God wants me to be poor. And you start to believe that, golly, maybe I should stop trying so hard. And I never gave up, but there were some dark moments,
yeah,
Taylor. I'm like, gosh, dang, man. And here's something that's awesome. I'm 48 right now. I still have those doubts. The difference is I have learned that I know how to get out of those. And I know that no matter what level of success, no matter how physically strong, how spiritually connected, how full my bank accounts are, it don't matter if you got a million or 2 million, it does not matter. There will always be some form of doubts and fears and discouragement at every level. The difference with those who succeed and those who don't is those who succeed, they just know this is temporary and it's up to me. Like I get to choose what I do right in this moment, if I stay put or if I move forward. And thankfully, I kept working, I kept hustling, I kept fighting and grinding. And then again, the doors just happened to be an amazing tool, amazing vehicle. I was ready for it. I put my hands on the vehicle, I started it, and I never stopped it. I'm telling you, I worked so hard, man. I worked hard and I worked smart and I practiced and I rehearsed and I'd get up at 6 in the morning and I would study for 4 hours every day. Like no exaggeration. Like I could sell today. I'm so like, whenever I hear these objections, oh, we got guns and dogs. Of course you have guns and dogs. People who have guns and dogs, they get these things. And the reason why is right, they know that the guns and dogs can't call the cops. So let me just show you how this works real quick. Do you want me to take my shoes on or off? Let me step in. I mean, I can overcome the objections because I've practiced so much. We just can't afford it. So what you're saying is if you could afford it, you'd have it. Is that right? Well, yeah, perfect. That's actually why I'm here. Let me show you how this works real quick. Oh, my husband's not home. Of course he's not home. He's working. And the husbands that work and travel, they love these things. I practiced and trained over and over and over for every objection, for every smokescreen, like every excuse. And I worked hard, man, and I practiced and I cut the learning curve. So like I think it was like 21 weeks because I did an extension. I carved out probably,
Uh,
golly, probably 30 hours a week. I would role play at night. On the drives home, brother, I was role playing. I'm like, how do you overcome this objection? How do you do that? How do you say that? And I was like, people were like, dude, we don't want, we want to turn it off. And I'm like,
that's awesome.
I don't got time. I don't like, we only knock for 20 to 21 weeks. So I collapsed so much time, you know. And again, you take 30 hours times 20 weeks, man, that's like 600 hours.
Yeah.
I was now ahead of everybody
No, that's
else.
so good.
And it worked.
And yeah,
It
I mean,
worked.
really, that's what it's going to take. I think that's what separates the contenders from the pretenders. Because so many people come to this industry. I'm sure you saw it too in alarms, but especially in solar, my industry, so many people think they can come in, knock a few hours a day, maybe go to training correlation. But we always tell our guys, hey, if coming to the sales correlation is the only training you're doing a week, you're gonna fail at this job. Like you need to be hungry, you need to be going home, role playing, carving out time, practicing, drilling, rehearsing. But yeah, I got respect for you guys, Setema, because funny enough, our company they started doing an alarm system bundle where they will actually put an alarm system with their solar, kind of package it in as a deal, and it's like optional. They don't have to do it, but they'll pay for the monitoring for the customer for the first year. And I'm telling customers about this as I'm selling them solar. They're signing up for solar, signing the documents. I'm saying, hey, we do an alarm system too. They'll put it in for free. And all these people, they're like, oh, you know what? It's fine. I'm like, it's free. You don't have to pay anything. Like, no, it's fine. So I'm like, man, how do these guys sell these alarm systems? I can't even give it away for free as a package with my solar deal. But it's just like anything. You got to learn the objections people are going through because if not, you're not going to be able. So you're not going to be able to give it away, as I'm coming to figure out. Just because I don't know, the benefits. I don't know the alarm systems, but you can tell you got it down because it's been what 15 years since you sold an alarm. When was it you're selling?
In 15 years. And I mean, if I knocked on the door and your wife answered and she's like, oh, we're good. My husband does this. Dude, husbands love me because they love when I take care of their wives. You guys have a smartphone. Let me show you how this works. Imagine your husband being able to look into your home right now and just be able to monitor you guys are okay. So, like, he'll be grateful. Let me just kick my shoes off. Let me show, I'll be real quick. If you don't want it, I'll leave. But let me step in. I mean, I can just, like, I know this thing and I love it. And so, yeah, man, I'm very
Yeah.
grateful
Did
for
you ever
my time on the
use?
doors,
Did
man.
people ever recognize you as like NFL player? Did that ever come up where it's like, oh, Satem, I saw you playing. Come in, come in.
No, but they would always be like, man, you look like The Rock. And this was, this was 12, 13 years ago. Now I go anywhere and everyone's like, dude, you look like The Rock. Like, I look way more, he's more famous, he's more popular. But there were doors in Texas, I'd knock on the door. And I was one of those guys that hugged the door. So I was like right up on it. So when they opened it, they would see me. Some guys stand back. Um, Guys would come to the door and they'd have a gun in their hand. I'm like, dude, don't shoot, man. Don't. I'm just here. I'm just here to get some milk
Yeah,
and cookies, man. And I'd crack a joke and what I'd break the. I'd go close them, but a lot of miracles on the doors. Like I just for anyone who's knocking solar, I would tell them like you have an opportunity of a lifetime to number one make crazy money. Number two, develop awesome skills that can transfer beyond the solar. And I mean skills like a lot of what I do today came from the door. My ability to close, recruit, sell, retain, train, like these negotiate. I'm working with, $50 million companies, $100 million companies, seven, $1 million companies. And it's so much of what I
yeah,
learned from the doors. And it can transfer. So whoever's knocking solar, like don't waste your time. You'll be sorry, and you'll have regret if you look back and say, "Man, I could have made an extra 500,000. I could have done more for I could have sharpened my skills
Yeah,
so much more. I
100%.
put the
I
time
love
and
that.
work."
Love that. Yeah, and then I want to shift gears a little bit. So I know you grew some teams. You were in it 5 years. So what advice would you give people who want to start building their team more? Because that's another thing in solar. There's a lot of people that just want to go out and knock their doors, make some money, call it good. So I assume you got into like management, started running teams. Obviously now you're running your company, right? Okay.
Yeah, I had big teams. I had great teams. So my first summer that I knocked, I
Yeah.
recruited like 12 dudes over from another company, like in June, and they came over. Look, here's the thing: if you want to make money, knock solo. If you want to build greater wealth, go build a team. Because number one, when you got, let's say, 50 guys knocking, and you've built a culture and you've built a system, you're gonna train these guys and or gals. You're gonna train them. You're gonna get a piece of what they do, but not only the financial aspect is great, but you're connecting and creating value for people. Like you're serving other people, you're training, so you got to be good yourself. Man, I had two of my best guys are still, they're like big
Yeah.
managers. They're making great money.